Once upon a time, there was a lady named Clara. Clara was 29 years old. She had been fasting and praying, asking and begging God for her own husband. Fortunately for Clara, her boyfriend Desmond, who she had been dating for 2 years, proposed to her. Clara's happiness knew no bounds as her prayers had been answered and her dream man had finally proposed to her. Oh God, at last you have remembered me and answered my prayers. I am so grateful, Lord. So I, Clara, I am finally going to be married to my dream man after all these years. Wow! Just when I had begun to lose hope, you did it, Lord. Thank you so much. That afternoon, after hanging out with Desmond and he left, Clara, who was eager to share the news with her friends, rushed out of the eatery and rushed towards their normal hangouts, where she normally met up with her friends to share the good news with them. But unknown to her, that was going to be the beginning of her problems. If only she knew what was about to happen, she would have kept the good news to herself. When she arrived at the restaurant where her friends were seated, she screamed to them, "I said yes! I said yes to Desmond!" Clara shouted, flaunting her engagement ring around where her friends would see it as she walked in on them. Aww, God, bueno. All my prayers and fasting this year won't pass me by. I'm so happy for you, Clara, Evelyn said, holding Clara's hand. Are you not happy for me? Clara asked, looking at Flora, who looked sad. Victor just broke up with me for no tangible reason, Flora said, trying to wipe the tears that were already forming in her eyes. 2 years of relationship just gone like that. I'm so sorry, Flora. You will find someone who cares and adores you, Clara said, trying to console her. The waiter came in with a bottle of wine and cups. Evelyn poured the wine and they started drinking. It's true, Clara. What about Boniface, your other boyfriend? What will you tell him? Evelyn asked Clara. I'll tell him that it is over. Desmond had already proposed. Boniface was taking time. I don't have time to waste. Look at Flora here. After 2 years, Victor left her just like that, Clara said, sipping the glass of wine on the table. Clara was the only daughter and child of Mrs. Ijoma, who had single-handedly trained her ever since her father died. Flora and Evelyn were best friends with Clara. They had known each other for quite a long time and they shared their secrets together. Clara had called her friends immediately after engagement with Desmond so they can celebrate with her. And after their celebration, they all left for their various houses. When Clara got home, she opened the door and walked in all happy, calling out to her mother. Mom! Mom! Desmond proposed to me today and I said yes, she said, showing her engagement ring to her mother, who was sitting on the cushion chair peeling melon. I'm so happy for you, she said, smiling at her daughter, who came running into her arms. They were still having a mother and daughter time when a phone call came into Clara's phone. He's calling, Mom, he's calling. Clara whispered to her mother excitedly and ran into the room with her phone. Lovebirds, Mrs. Ijoma said, smiling and shaking her head. Desmond was from a rich home and wanted the wedding to take place without wasting time. The wedding preparations kicked off. Days rolled in their order, turning into weeks, and the day for the wedding was closing in. 2 days to the wedding day, It was noon, and Clara had left for the market with her friend Evelyn to get something needed for the wedding, which they almost forgot. A call came into Evelyn's phone and she was needed urgently. They were already done getting what they came for, so Evelyn left Clara in a hurry. On Clara's way back to her house, there was a lot of traffic. It was getting dark already and the weather was changing, like there was going to be a heavy downpour. Mrs. Ijoma called Clara to ask where she was, and she told her mother that there was a lot of traffic and she would be home soon. The time was already 7:30 p.m. and everywhere had become dark. The way to Clara's house had become scanty due to the fact that everyone had entered inside because of the coming rain. There were no bikes and Clara had no choice but to trek to her house. She was walking back home when a group of 3 guys stopped her. They were all putting on masks. They covered her mouth and carried her into an uncompleted building close by. They laid Clara on the floor and began removing her clothes. "Stop it, please. Please don't do this to me. My wedding is in 2 days' time. Anything you want, I'm going to give it to you. Please don't rape me." Clara continued begging the guys, who seemed bent on doing what they came for. One of the guys unhooked his zippers and had his way with Clara, who cried out in pain. When he was done, they left Clara on the floor and fled. Clara, who had just been raped, couldn't understand what must happened. "Why did you allow this to happen to me? What did I do to deserve this? Who have I offended?" Clara lay on the floor crying bitterly and asking questions that never got answered. She was left with her clothes ripped apart. Her phone started ringing. She picked it and it was Evelyn calling her. "Hello, bride-to-be, where are you?" "What did I do to deserve this, Evelyn? Who did I offend?" What happened, Clara? Talk to me. Did Desmond say anything? "I've been raped. Someone just raped me. Do I really deserve this, Evelyn? Tell me, do I?" "I'm on my way to your house now." Clara stood up and managed to dress her clothes well and then left for her house. When she got home, Mrs. Ijoma was shocked seeing her daughter dirty and crying with torn clothes. "What happened?" Mrs. Ijoma asked Clara, who continued crying. "Mama, I was raped. I was raped, Mama," Clara said, sitting down on the floor in their living room. Mrs. Ijoma joined her in tears. Almost an hour later, Evelyn and Flora arrived at Clara's house. They took Clara into her room to console and clean her up. Just then, her phone started ringing and it was Desmond calling. "Pick up the call and tell him you're with your friends. Don't tell him what happened," Flora whispered. Clara wiped her tears and picked up the call. When she spoke to Desmond, he noticed her voice was not clear. He asked her what had happened, but Clara said all was well, that she was just tired. The girls slept over at Clara's house in order to console their friend who was going to get married in 2 days' time. The next morning, the girls left for their various houses, leaving Clara behind. The time is already 8 a.m. and Desmond is not yet here. "Didn't you tell him what happened?" Mrs. Clara asked, walking in on Clara, who was still on the bed. She sat up and looked at her mother. "But Mom, how can I tell my husband-to-be that I was raped? How will he look at me? What if I get pregnant? I think he'll be able to take care of the child," Clara asked and a tear dropped down her cheek. No one asked for this, my child. He will understand that it wasn't your fault, but you need to tell him what happened. If he loves you enough, he will look past it and go ahead with the wedding as planned. You can't start keeping secrets from him, my dear, Mrs. Ijoma said, consoling her daughter. I can't, Mom, I can't, Clara said and continued crying. Should I help you out? Should I help you talk to him? No, Mom, please don't. Just let it be, please. Clara begged and continued crying. She didn't want to lose Desmond. An hour gone, and Desmond came walking into Clara's house. Her eyes were swollen like someone who had been crying all through the night. What happened to you, my dear? Desmond asked, coming closer to Clara. Babe, did you cry all night? What is the matter, my love? He asked, holding her cheek up with his hands. Nothing, baby. I just slipped and fell yesterday when I was coming back from the market. Clara answered, faking a smile. She showed him some bruises. I've told you not to stress yourself, my angel, Desmond said and planted a kiss on her lips. You'll be okay. I just came to drop this, he said and handed a bag to Clara. He bade her goodbye and left. The day for the wedding came, and Clara was looking so beautiful in her wedding gown. And so was Desmond, who looked very ravishing and handsome in his suit. After the brief sermon, it was time to proceed with the wedding proper. Wait! A voice from the congregation shouted, and Clara almost lost her breath. My son cannot get married to a victim of rape, Madame Yvonne said, standing up and walking towards the altar. What is wrong with you, Mom? I know you don't like Clara too well, but I never knew you can tell such a lie against her, Desmond said in a low tone, trying to defend Clara. You call your mother a liar because of this thing. Go ahead and ask her if I'm lying. Desmond turned and looked at Clara. Tell me Mom is lying so we can continue our wedding, Desmond said, trying his very best to force a smile. Clara couldn't find any words and tears began to roll down her cheeks. So she's not lying? Why didn't you tell me? I thought we said no secrets. Why did you keep it from me, Clara? Desmond asked, already taking few steps backwards as Clara tried to hold him. You've broken the trust I had for you. How can I stand you now? It wasn't my fault. I didn't plan for this to happen, Clara said, going down on her knees and pleading with Desmond. She reached out for his trousers, but he removed her hands. The congregation kept watching the whole drama. Some started gossiping within themselves, while others stood up to see what was going on. The words that Clara never wanted to hear came flying from Desmond's lips. I don't think I can continue with this anymore, he said to the priest and walked out of the church with his best man. Clara tried running behind him, but she stepped on her dress and slipped. Her friends came running towards her, including her mother. Clara stood up again and chased after Desmond, but before she could get to the car, he drove off. People came out looking at what was happening. Some pitied Clara while others brought out their phones, taking pictures of Clara shedding tears on the floor. Clara stood up again like someone who had lost her sanity and ran towards Desmond's direction. She was about crossing the road when a speeding vehicle knocked her down. The car stopped immediately and the driver helped carry Clara into his car. Mrs. Ijoma was crying for the life of her only daughter as they rushed her to the hospital immediately. She couldn't help but keep asking herself how Madam Yvonne got to know. Desmond went straight to his house with his best man. He took a bottle of whiskey and started drinking it up. She was raped. My wife-to-be was raped, Jude. She didn't tell me. Now everyone knows because of my mother. Desmond said and continued drinking as tears kept rolling down his cheeks. Jude tried taking the bottle of whiskey from him, but he couldn't. He tried consoling Desmond, who was already feeling terrible, leaving his bride at the altar. Madam Yvonne walked in on Desmond and collected the bottle of whiskey from his hand. I told you to leave that girl alone, but you wouldn't hear. Have you seen what she has done to you? She was raped 2 days before her wedding, and yet she didn't tell you. I found you a very good girl, Mia. If you had gotten married to Mia, this wouldn't have happened. I don't love Mia, Desmond shouted, throwing the glass cup on the tiled floor, and it broke to pieces. He sat on the floor and sobbed like a baby. Madam Yvonne ordered the maid to come and clean up the mess as she helped Desmond to his room to cool off. Madam Yvonne was the only parent of Desmond. Desmond's father was very rich before he died. He willed all his properties to the name of his wife and son, so no one would come to drag his sweat. Madam Yvonne wanted Desmond to get married to her friend's daughter, Mia, who came from a wealthy family. But Desmond wasn't interested. Instead, he found love in Clara. The next day, the whiskey which Desmond had taken cleared from his eyes. He couldn't go to work. He kept reflecting on how he had left Clara on their wedding day. It's her fault. She lied to me. She hid the truth from me, Desmond said to himself and sat on the floor. Even though he was hurting, he knew Clara would be hurting the more. It wasn't her fault, and she was definitely going to be traumatized with the experience. He needed to know how she was faring. He picked up his phone and tried calling. He called Jude, asking how Clara was feeling, since he couldn't call her after leaving her at the altar. Jude told him that Clara was at the hospital, that a vehicle had knocked her down in her quest to run after them when they left. Desmond stood up, hung up the call. He thought to himself, what has he done to the love of his life? He decided he really needed to go check up on her. Desmond dressed up and left for the hospital. On arrival, he saw Clara, conscious but lying down on the bed. What do you want again? Flora asked, trying to barricade Desmond from seeing Clara. What you did wasn't enough, and you have the guts to show up again? Evelyn asked. Leave this place now and allow my friend to recover. Desmond didn't listen to any of them. He went on his knees and started begging Clara to forgive him for what he had done to her. I can't bear it if I lost you, Desmond said, reaching out for Clara's hand. I'm so sorry for keeping it from you. I really didn't know how to tell you. They both hugged each other to the surprise of everyone. Desmond spent the rest of his day in the hospital, while Evelyn and Flora were still angry on why Clara had accepted Desmond back immediately after he left her on the altar. It was getting late, and Desmond left for his house. When he got home, his mother was surprised to see that her son had a sudden change of mood. Don't tell me you found another woman, Mrs. Yvonne asked, looking at Desmond. No, Mom. I'm back with the love of my life. She was raped. It wasn't her fault. What do you mean it wasn't her fault? Are you okay? What if she had contracted a sexually transmitted disease? What if she gets pregnant for the person that raped her? Will you take care of the child as yours? Desmond suddenly couldn't feel his feet. He took steps backward and took a seat. Leave that girl, his mother said. Mia walked in. She walked up to Madame Yvonne, swinging her behind to attract Desmond. Good evening, Mom. Good evening, Des. Good evening, my dear. How are you doing? Mrs. Yvonne asked. What are you doing here? Desmond asked, stopping Mia from answering the question she was asked. I invited her over, his mother replied. Stay with her then, Desmond said, and left the house with his car keys. The thought of what his mother had just said kept ringing in his head. What if Clara actually gets pregnant for the one who raped her? He decided he would wait and see if Clara would test positive. A day later, Clara was discharged from the hospital and taken home. Desmond and Clara were already back together. 2 weeks later, Desmond took Clara to the hospital. He conducted a pregnancy test. It took a few minutes and the doctor walked in with the test results. From the results, your wife has no sexually transmitted diseases, the doctor said after taking his seat. What about the pregnancy tests? Desmond asked anxiously. Yes, congratulations, sir. You are going to be a father, the doctor said, smiling and handing over the test results to Desmond, who didn't move after hearing the results. Clara collected the results to check very well, and truly she was pregnant. She looked at Desmond and saw a tear rolling down his cheek. He wiped it, stood up and left the doctor's office. Clara ran after him. Please don't do this to me again, Desmond. I don't want to lose you. Remember you promised not to leave me again. Please, be by my side. Clara begged Desmond and tried holding his hands, but Desmond withdrew his hands from her. I'm so sorry, Clara. I'm so sorry. I can't. I just can't. Desmond said and walked out. He entered his car, leaving Clara, who was standing and crying in front of the hospital. Desmond couldn't control his tears either. He understood the pains Clara was going through, but he could not have another man's child as his first. Worse still, the child of the man who raped his wife to be. Desmond couldn't start looking at Clara's tears, so he left her and drove out. Clara's legs could not carry her. She sat on the floor and continued crying. She picked up her phone and called Flora. He left me again, Clara said over the phone and hung up. Flora called her back and asked her where she was, and she told her she was at the hospital. Flora was close by, so she asked her to wait for her a bit. Flora came to the hospital and took Clara home. Flora also called Evelyn, who came to Clara's house. I told you not to accept him back, but you refused. You see where you've gotten yourself, Evelyn said, looking angry. You should be consoling her and not blaming her. You should know that when someone is in love, they don't really think that much, Flora said, holding Clara, who was sitting on the floor sobbing. My daughter didn't ask for this. None of this is her fault. Just look at my daughter. Mrs. Ijoma pointed at Clara, who was sitting on the floor and talking inaudibly to herself. My daughter is being traumatized. Something occurred to Mrs. Ijoma. It was just the three of them who were aware that Clara was raped. So how did Madame Yvonne got to know? It was a mystery to her. Evelyn and Flora were good girls, and she was sure they wouldn't tell anyone anything. But then how did Madame Yvonne get to know? Desmond went back to his house in tears. She was literally sobbing like a baby. He walked into his house wiping his tears. Madame Yvonne saw her son crying. "What is the matter, my dear?" Desmond looked at her and continued walking into his room. His mother followed him into his room to know why her son was shedding tears. "What is the matter, Des? Why are you sobbing like a baby?" "Mom, she's pregnant. Clara is pregnant for the person that raped her." "Come here, my son," Madame Yvonne said, and placed Desmond's head on her laps. "I told you to leave her. I warned you, but you never heeded my advice. See what she has reduced you to. See how you're sobbing like a baby. I just wish you can forget her and look towards Mia. She's very good." "Not now, Mom," Desmond said, cutting into his mother's words and standing up from the bed. "I think I need time out of all this drama, Mom. I'm going to meet my friend over there in Cameroon. You are in charge of everything," Desmond said, and started packing his bags. The whole of the night, Clara couldn't sleep. She kept waiting on Desmond's call, but he never called. She slept off in her own tears. She woke up in the morning and checked her phone. Yet, not a single call from Desmond or even a text. She called Desmond, but his number didn't go through. Towards evening, Clara sneaked out of the house without telling her mother where she was going to. She went to Desmond's house to look for him. When she got to his house, the gateman refused to let her in. She asked him to go and tell Desmond that she was looking for him. The gateman told Clara that Desmond had traveled yesterday. Clara was shocked with the news. "Who is that you're talking to?" Madame Yvonne asked, walking towards the gate. "Madame, is Oga Desmond the wife?" The gateman answered. Madame Yvonne arrived at the gate and landed a slap on the cheek of the gateman. "Don't you dare call this victim of rape my son's wife to be again. My son is too good to marry things from the slums. Do I look dirty to you? Make sure that thing stays outside," Madame Yvonne said and walked out. Clara couldn't control her tears. Desmond had just left her again for the second time, and this time around there was no coming back, all because of this thing she was carrying. She made up her mind that she was going to abort the baby of the rapist, who had just ruined her life 2 days to her wedding. On the way home, Clara bought some abortion pills and went home with it. "Where did you go to?" Mrs. Ijoma asked Clara, who was holding some pills and sitting on the chair. "What are you holding?" Mrs. Ijoma asked her again without waiting for her to answer the first question. "Mom, these are abortion pills. I'm going to set myself free from all these pains caused by this child of a rapist growing within me," Clara said, crying out loud. Mrs. Ijoma quickly collected the drugs from Clara. "Don't you know abortion pills are dangerous? You are my only child. Can't you see that you're also hurting me? How do you want me to survive if anything happens to you?" She threw away the pills and hugged Clara tightly. There was a weather change that night and it started raining. Clara couldn't sleep. She remembered all the good times she had with Desmond. The rain reminded her of the very night she was raped. She remembered how Desmond had left her on the altar, and how Desmond had finally left her for good. People pointed at her as she walked on the road. She cried bitterly. "I can't take this anymore," Clara said, crying out. She walked into the kitchen and picked up a knife she had seen lying on the table. "I'm so sorry, Mom. The pain is too much for me to bear. I need to end it all," Clara said to herself and lifted up the knife. If Clara succeeds in killing herself, who do you think will take over her position as Desmond's wife? How did Desmond's father find out that Clara was raped? Do you think she was the mastermind, or was she working closely with one of Clara's friends? We'll find out in our next episode. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And click on the notification bell icon so you'll be notified anytime we post new videos. Thank you and God bless.
Are you sure they won't catch us? Are you sure it's safe? Ifunanya asked Chisom and Ezinne with worry written all over her face as they were about to sneak out of the school through a secret path in the fence. This is not our first or second time doing this, so just trust us and tag along. But if you're not bold enough, then go back to the hostel and read your books as usual. Chisom replied to her with an angry face. I wonder why you are asking such a stupid question. Didn't you say you want to be one of us? Ezinne asked as well. Ifunanya didn't want to offend them. She wanted to feel among the big girls of Brian's college, so she summoned courage and sneaked out of school with them. Ifunanya gained admission into Brian's college a few months ago on scholarship as a boarding student. She came from a very poor background, but she was very brilliant and intelligent, so she was fortunate to get a scholarship into Brian's college. When she got to Brian's college, she took her studies very seriously, just as her parents advised her before she left the village for the city. She avoided trouble and made sure not to break any school rules or regulations. However, Ifunanya started getting distracted when she met a girl called Chisom. Unlike Ifunanya, Chisom came from a very rich family. Her parents were politicians, so she had everything she wanted. She was a spoiled child who would often ridicule and bully those from poor families, alongside her partner Ezinne, who was also from a wealthy home. Ifunanya envied Chisom and Ezinne. She admired the way they lived in school, being able to buy whatever they wanted and the way everyone respected them. So she started getting closer to them. Ifunanya's friends warned her against Chisom and Ezinne, but she stubbornly refused to listen. One day, Chisom and Ezinne told Ifunanya that they would sneak out of school at night to visit a club and they would like her to come with them if she really wanted to be one of them. Ifunanya felt so happy and accepted to join them. When it was time, Ifunanya was scared, but she built the courage and decided to go with them. When they sneaked out of the school compound, Chisom and Ezinne changed into skimpy and short dresses. They also gave a dress to Ifunanya and asked her to wear it, but she wasn't comfortable with the clothes she was given because it was too short and skimpy. This clothes is too short for me. My laps are exposed and my back is open. Don't you have another piece of clothing for me? Are you serious? Too short? You want to go to the club looking like an old woman or what? See, if you want to wear that clothes, go back into the hostel. I told you not to bring this village girl with us. If you want to wear it, then go back into the school and stay away from us. They threatened her again. Ifunanya foolishly succumbed to their threats and wore the clothes that she was given. It was indeed very short and cleaved to her body like glue on paper, revealing her thighs and exposing most of her body. When they had finished preparing, Chisom brought out a cell phone which she hid in her backpack and called a strange number, telling the person that they were ready. In less than 10 minutes, a luxurious car pulled over in front of them and the driver came down to hug Chisom. Then he asked them to enter the car so he would take them to the club. Ifnaya felt uneasy, but she didn't have the courage to refuse. Together, they entered the car with Chisom seated in front while Ezinne and Ifnanya were at the back. The man drove off and in a few minutes they arrived at the club. It was filled with a lot of people and Ifnanya could see a lot of things that she didn't feel comfortable with. She saw some guys smoking outside and she saw some young girls who were with men in uncomfortable positions. "Let's go inside," Chisom said, diverting Ifnaya's attention from what she was focused on, and they all entered the club. Inside the club, there were a lot of people drinking and dancing to very loud music. Ifnaya wasn't comfortable. She went to sit by the bar while Chisom and Ezinne went with a guy into a different part of the club. While Ifnaya was seated, looking around the club in shock that such a place should exist, a handsome man came to sit with her. "Hey, beautiful," the man yelled at the top of his voice so that Ifnaya could hear him. "Good evening, sir. My name is Emeka. What is your name? And why is a beautiful girl like you seated all alone?" "I'm sorry. I don't talk to strangers. I'm here with my friends. They will be here soon," Ifnaya replied. "Don't be scared. I won't harm you. I already told you my name. I really like you and would love to be your friend because you are very beautiful." Ifnaya smiled at his compliments. It would be the first time a man would be asking her out, so she felt desired but also scared at the same time because her parents had warned her when she got admission into the boarding school to stay away from boys and focus on her education. There will always be time for boys, so just focus on your education so that they will not be a distraction to you. The words of her mother echoed through her head once again. Ifnaya thanked Emeka for his compliments, but she refused to tell him her name. Emeka tried to convince her, but Ifnaya was determined to stand her ground. So Emeka gave her a piece of paper which contained his number. Just as he was giving Ifnaya the paper, Chisom and Ezinne showed up from where they went. They were very shocked to see Emeka with Ifnaya, but before they got to where Ifnaya sat, Emeka had already left. "Please, I'm not comfortable here. Can we go back to the school before anyone notices that we are missing?" Ifnaya said. "It's early and nobody will know we went out. You need to learn how to calm down. Take some drinks and have fun," Chisom said. "Try and blend in. You don't need to show everyone that you're a local girl," Ezinne said. They ordered some shots of alcohol and convinced Ifnaya to take some. But Ifnaya gave up after gulping the first shot. It was her first time taking alcohol and it didn't taste too nice. So she just sat and watched as Chisom and Ezinne danced with different men, drinking and smoking until the early hours of the morning when they took a cab back to school. They changed their clothes once again and sneaked back into the hostel without being caught. When it was morning, the two girls asked Ifnanya, "The guy that was with you at the club when we left, what were you both discussing about?" "Do you know who he is?" Ezinne asked. "No. He said his name is Emeka and he would like to be my friend, but I told him I'm not interested. He gave me his number though." They became surprised. Ezinne moved closer to Ifnaya and told her who Emeka was. "Emeka is one of the wealthiest men in this town. He has a big house and many cars. Imagine having someone like him as your boyfriend. You would lack nothing in life." "But I don't want or need a boyfriend. My parents warned me about being close to any man or boy. They asked me to focus on my studies," Ifnaya replied. "Why are you so childish? Don't you want to have a phone of your own with enough money to buy whatever you want to eat without waiting for only what they serve at the canteen? I have a boyfriend, yet I'm doing well academically. So who says having a boyfriend would make you fail in your studies? Please bring his number, let us call him immediately. Ifnaya was doubtful at first, but she foolishly listened to them. She brought out the piece of paper and they called him using a hidden mobile phone. Then they gave the phone to Ifnaya and they went out to check if anyone was coming because they were not allowed to use mobile phones in the boarding school. The phone rang for some time before Emeka picked up the call. Hello, who is this? Ifnaya was scared at first, but she greeted him and told him that she was the girl he gave his number to the previous night. Emeka instantly remembered Ifnaya and they started conversing. Emeka and Ifnaya became very close after that day and would often talk on the phone. Every weekend, Ifnaya would sneak out with Chisom and Ezine to go and see Emeka, who would take them to the club and lavish money on them. Emeka got Ifnaya her own phone and it didn't take long before she fell deeply and madly in love with Emeka. Ifnaya stopped taking her studies seriously. She started living a wayward life, just like Chisom, and her academics started to suffer. She also stopped hanging around her previous serious friends and belonged to Chisom's crew. One fateful weekend, when they all sneaked out as usual to meet Emeka, but this time, Emeka didn't take them to the club. He took them to his house. He told them it was his birthday and he was having a birthday party at his house. When he got there, the girls were surprised at how big and beautiful his house was. There were a lot of people already at his house, drinking and partying to very loud music. Emeka told Ifnaya that he had a present for her in his room, and Ifnaya trusted him enough to follow him into his room. When they got to his room, Emeka locked the door and showed Ifnaya a brand new gown which was very beautiful. However, he told Ifnaya to sleep with him before she could take the gift with her. Ifnaya was shocked at his request and told him, I'm sorry, I don't think I can let you sleep with me. I made a vow that I would keep my virginity until my wedding night for my husband. But you love me and I've also promised to marry you. Just give me your body and I promise to give you anything you want. Ifnaya refused Emeka's advances despite all his tactics and it only got him upset. He pushed her to the bed and started tearing her clothes. Ifnaya screamed and screamed at the top of her voice, but no one could hear her because of the music in the party that was very loud. Emeka eventually had his way with her and forcefully took away her virginity, leaving her heartbroken and betrayed. Then he left her upstairs and returned back to the party. Ifnaya cried her eyes out. Her clothes were already torn, so she had to wear the brand new beautiful gown which Emeka bought for her. When she came downstairs, Chisom saw her and was so carried away by the gown she was wearing that she didn't even notice the pains on Ifnaya's face and how her legs trembled as she walked. Please take me back to the hostel, Ifnaya said with tears streaming down her cheeks. Chisom saw that Ifnaya was deeply in pain and together with Ezine, they sneaked back into the hostel that night. When they got back, Ifnaya narrated all that happened to them, but to her greatest surprise, they were not even remorseful by what they had. Instead, they told Ifnaya, why are you behaving like a child? Did you really expect him to buy all those things without asking you for anything in return? Ezine said to her, would you rather be a virgin and live like a slave or enjoy life to the fullest? There's always a first time for everything, so please, it's not a big deal. Ifnaya was hurt badly by their words. She broke down in tears and blamed them for all that happened to her, but they didn't care. They simply walked away and asked Ifnaya to get drugs for the pain. From that day henceforth, Ifnaya stayed away from them because she learned her lesson the hard way. Emeka continued calling her, but she warned him to stay away from her and never call her again. She wished she had listened to her friends when they asked her to be mindful of the friends she kept and the people she was envying. Ifnaya took her studies seriously once again and avoided distraction, but little did she know that it was just the beginning of her problems. One fateful morning, Ifnaya woke up feeling nauseous and weak. She felt a rumble in her stomach and rushed to the restroom to vomit some white substance. She had no idea what was wrong with her until one of her very close friends, whose mother was a doctor, told her that she is pregnant. Ifunanya doubted her at first until she tested herself with a pregnancy kit and got a positive result. She broke down in tears, confused and depressed. She didn't know what to do. She thought of telling her parents, but she couldn't bring herself to confess all the foolish things she had done to them. After thinking for a while, she decided to call Emeka. When she finally got the courage to call Emeka, he picked up the phone and recognized her voice instantly. "Good girl. I can see you have finally regained your senses. Should I be expecting you this weekend?" Emeka said. "Emeka, I'm calling to tell you that I am pregnant." Emeka kept silent for a while. Then he said, "How is that my business? You better go and look for the father of your bastard child instead of trying to pin it on me." Ifunanya could not believe her ears. She looked at the phone screen to be sure it was truly Emeka she was talking to. The same Emeka who had promised to marry her, who swore he would love her with all his heart. "Emeka, what do you mean? You're the first man to see my nakedness. You forcefully had your way with me and now you're trying to deny the pregnancy." "Look here, my friend. It is better you go and terminate that bastard in your womb or go out there and find the real father. Please, don't ever call my line again." Immediately Emeka said this, he disconnected the call and blocked Ifunanya's number. Ifunanya tried to call him back, but his number didn't connect. Out of desperation, she sneaked out of the hostel the next week and went to Emeka's house. But she got the shock of her life when she saw him with a woman who claimed to be his wife and 2 beautiful children. It was at that moment that Ifunanya knew that she was doomed. She returned to the hostel and cried her eyes out. When she realized she had no choice, she went to meet Chisom and Ezine once again, pleading for their assistance to terminate the pregnancy, but they also pushed her away. "You're on your own, no, Ifunanya. I don't want to have anything to do with you," Chisom said to her. "You always act like you are holier than all of us. Please, don't implicate us with your foolishness." Ifunanya felt hopeless. She started searching the internet for ways to terminate a pregnancy. Unfortunately for her, she found a website where people listed some strange drugs. Ifunanya bought the drugs and took it without proper prescription. It didn't take long before it started to react in her body and she started bleeding seriously. She was rushed to the school clinic and eventually transferred to a bigger hospital for surgery in order to save her life. After the surgery was completed, her parents were notified and the principal of the school was informed. They were told that Ifunanya tried to abort a pregnancy by taking the wrong medication, which almost cost her life. They were able to save her life. However, she lost her womb in the process and wouldn't be able to give birth to children anymore. When Ifunanya got the news, she cried and cried, but her tears could not change the past or the wrong decisions she made. She spent the rest of her life in shame and pain as a lesson to other students so they wouldn't make the same mistake she did. Chisom and Ezine were also expelled from the school for breaking the rules and regulations of the school, and Emeka was arrested by the police for forcefully sleeping with Ifunanya. The moral lesson of this story reminds us to be mindful of the friends we keep and do not be tempted to involve yourself in things that you are not comfortable with just because you want to please anybody. No matter how pressured you may be, always remember your moral principles and stick to it. Don't forget where you come from. In all you do, let it be at the back of your mind. With each decision you make, ask yourself if your folks back at home would be proud of it or not.